This is a video of my trip to Chicago. I did some sightseeing for the first few days, and then after that I headed out to the suburbs so I could attend the Perry Marshall Rainmaker Alchemist Seminar for 3 days, and this is in September 2012. So right off the bat, I saw this at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. This is the first thing I saw when I came to Chicago. It's this wild, like, disco kind of moving walkway, and supposedly it's supposed to help calm travelers down. All the neon lights and the tinkle bell type of music that's playing while you're walking through to the next terminal. It was totally cool. I thought it was just hilarious. And the very first night, I thought to myself, you know what? I got to start taking care of some important Chicago business. And so here I am with my very own Chicago deep dish pizza. You can see how deep it is. It's just crazy. And there it is right there. It looks kind of like a cheese blob, but that's just because there's so much topping. That was definitely a good Chicago experience, although one that I probably wouldn't want to do too often because it was not the healthiest of experiences. Chicago is renowned for its architecture, and so walking around, it was just mind-blowing. And in a lot of ways, it actually felt like I was walking around in like Batman or Spider-Man or some kind of DC Comics thing. Like this building here, this is actually the Chicago Public Library. And look at the wild kind of structures on the top and on the edges. I didn't know if it was like gargoyles or something like that, but I got closer and I looked into it some more, and it's said to be some kind of like an owl, like the bird, an owl kind of structure. So anyways, just you would never see this in my home city in Edmonton, Canada, but fascinating and super cool to see in Chicago. And this is actually the same building. Everything's kind of oversized, and I almost felt like I was a small child standing next to this building. Like, this is a full-grown man here. Look at how big the blocks are that they used to build it. These are not small bricks. They're huge blocks. And then these huge, oversized lanterns. Like, again, looking at how big this guy is here, I mean, this is taller than a man, these lanterns. So I think that probably helped to contribute to the whole comic book feel, was just how oversized some things were in Chicago. Very cool building. Okay, this is kind of confusing. This is a public road, so you can see there's traffic lights and there's a car there, and then there's just these huge iron pillars that are sticking down into the road. And I was just thinking to myself, you know, what if someone on a bicycle had to swerve to miss traffic and then they ended up face first into these poles? Like, or what if a car swerved or someone wasn't paying attention a little bit? And that is not forgiving. There's no protective barriers or anything around it. So then I was wondering, why the heck is that there? And then suddenly the train went by. So literally the subway in certain areas is on top of the road. So that was pretty wild. I thought that was interesting. Speaking of trains, my very first full day in the Chicago area, I actually took a train to Milwaukee, a neighboring city. It's about a 90-minute train ride. And I really, you know, I'd never gone on kind of like a commuter train like this. And so here I speak about my experience a little bit. I'll just fire up this video quickly here, and you can hear and see what it was like to be on the commuter train. I'll just pull this over here. There we go. So it's Monday, and my Chicago trip has taken me, well, out of Chicago. I'm on a train on my way to Milwaukee. I am going to go meet up with one of my marketing mentors, Steve Kroll of Rocket Clicks, very successful firm that Dr. Glenn Livingston put me in touch with, so thank you, Dr. Livingston, for that. And I can't help but feel, as I cut through the countryside here, like I am on a Taggart transcontinental train. Feels like I'm on the Rio Norte line or something like that. So next stop, Milwaukee, on the first full day of this Chicago trip. So Steve was a very gracious host, and he met me at the train. First thing we did is we went to lunch. And I don't remember the name of this restaurant, but it was a very unique, very, very cool place to go and eat. I told Steve I wanted to have like Milwaukee food, just to experience the local food. And he said, okay, you know, you're going to have to be brave here, but this is a good Milwaukee burger. So it's like duck fat egg on top of American cheese on top of a hamburger. And I just looked at it and went, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? And even the bun, this is actually pretzel dough. Like if you were to get a pretzel at a carnival or at a fair, this is a pretzel dough bun. And so I took a little piece off and tasted it, and sure enough, it was kind of salty, and it's like eating a pretzel. So that was Very, very cool. Again, not something I'd want to eat every day, but definitely a good one-time experience. Paired with that, I had an amazing local beer. Now, it's actually brewed in Belgium and then imported to Milwaukee, and it's served at this restaurant only. So I thought that was a cool kind of pseudo-local experience. Then it was off to Rocket Clicks. So the one and only Rocket Clicks. We've heard so much about Rocket Clicks through Perry Marshall and through Glenn Livingston, and so it was really cool to go see the physical location. And so this is Rocket Clicks here. It's housed in this big building, along with a couple other businesses. There's a company called BizLab, and they actually own Rocket Clicks, and they also own a company that sells Dish Network, like a satellite dish service in the United States. And so on the inside, they have tons of cubicles here. They actually have the call center for their Dish Network sales. And then they also have, so that's what this area is. They've got like tech support, I think, or customer service. They've also got a whole other room like this, which is sales for the Dish Network. They have a separate room again, which is smaller, and it's for only the top performers of sales for Dish Network. So I thought that was interesting. And then the other half of the building is Rocket Clicks. So lots of people, again, kind of in cubicles like this, working on AdWords accounts and SEO, and just amazing to see a big scale operation like that working hard on accounts that are all spending $10,000 a month and more on clicks. So really cool experience to walk around there. So there's a close-up of Steve. Really nice guy. He's been such a good mentor to me, such a nice guy. Very knowledgeable, very insightful, and just an amazing host. And so Rocket Clicks has done really well. As you can see, that he's standing next to some awards they've won, including being on the Inc. 5000 list. So they were one of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in America, and they've won an award from the Inc. 5000 awards, I think 3 or 4 years in a row. So they're doing really, really well. This is in their boardroom for Rocket Clicks. And there's Steve and I in the boardroom. And so this is all happening in Milwaukee. As you know, I took a train out to from Chicago to Milwaukee. And Steve said, you know what, Tim, there's actually a party tonight being hosted by Marquette University. So I didn't take this picture. Obviously, this is a drawing or something of Marquette University, but it's a very quite a successful, well-respected university in the United States. And so there's this evening party, and this evening party was being held to honor David Bernstein. Now, David Bernstein is a writer for the New York Times. He's actually from Canada. He's from Montreal, but he now resides in the U.S., and he's written a series of different articles in the New York Times about social entrepreneurship. Now, I'm not really familiar with the term, but I guess it turns out social entrepreneurship is basically when you use business to solve social problems. So, for example, poverty is an issue, and in Africa, poverty is a really big issue. So something like a microloan where someone will donate $50 or $100 to kiva.org, for example, and then Kiva will turn around and offer a small $20 or $50 or $100 loan to a third world entrepreneur to be able to buy a few cows or some fruit or some small machinery to help build their business, thus breaking them out of the poverty cycle. So David Bernstein, this is him here, and got to meet and chat with him a little bit, which is pretty cool. And while I was there, I made sure to have more Milwaukee brew. This is Spotted Cow beer. That was a good experience. And then this is me, again, with Steve from Rocket Clicks. And then another guy. This is Rob Siraki. And also a very, very talented AdWords manager. He's recently picked up the account to do AdWords for the Green Bay Packers. So that was very, very cool. Now, we were having a really great time at the party. I knew that I'd have to miss my original train back to Chicago, like my original booking. But, you know, we both, Steve and I, we were pretty sure that there was like a 7 p.m. train, an 8 p.m., a 9, a 10, 11 p.m. train, so it'd be easy for me to catch some other train to go back to Chicago. Well, it was the end of the night, and turns out there was no train, so I looked at Steve and said, hey, man, so am I sleeping on your couch or what? And so that was kind of funny, but turns out that there was another person at the party that was going back to Chicago, this guy right here. His name is Tim. And so I got to ride with him for about an hour and a half, and we had a really great conversation. So thank you, Tim, for driving me home. And so then after that, that's a video. I won't show you that because we don't have much time here. But the next day, I was putting my nose to the grindstone. So this is just a funny image I pulled off of Google. This is a grindstone. This is me. This is my nose. Because I had to get ready for the Perry Marshall conference. So I worked basically all day doing different homework in preparation for the Perry Marshall seminar. Now at nighttime, it was time to head out again. So I went to this restaurant, which is close to Wrigley Field. And I actually went with 3 other people that I met. I stayed at a hostel, so I met a person from Los Angeles, and then a person from Australia, and then another person from Australia. The Aussies didn't know each other ahead of time, so we're all kind of 4 strangers to each other. We had a really good time going out to Wrigley Field. The bartender here is like, whoa, I don't want to be in this picture, but I guess there he is. And walking around outside Wrigley Field is it's just amazing. Like, it's just like walking back in time. This used to be like a trolley path, and I've seen pictures of this very road where people are getting out of trolleys with like trains, and they've got their top hat on and their long jacket, and the women have like a big skirt on or something with a parasol. It just feels like you're walking back in time, which is so, so cool. So this is the inside of Wrigley Field where the Chicago Cubs play, and they have for over 100 years. They've played in this location. Actually, I don't know for sure, but it's around 100 years. And you can see the stadium, it still has this exposed steel beams. And, you know, there's no like modern dressing it up. It is like a heritage building, which is very, very cool. These were our original seats, and it was only $8. I mean, we're way up in the nosebleeds, way up in the super high seats. And I wanted to point out here, you know, yes, we can see the Chicago skyline, which is really nice, but these buildings right here, they're actually not a part of the stadium. There's actually a road that runs between Wrigley Stadium here and then these businesses. But look at how enterprising and intelligent these businesses are. They've actually installed more bleachers on the roof of their restaurant or their bar so that they could sell seats to the game. So you could not go to Wrigley Field, but go to this bar, have some drinks, have some food, and then sit on the top and still watch the game as if you are at Wrigley Field. So I thought that was just like absolutely ingenious, and that's really clever. So moving right along, I don't know why I took this picture. I think I just, you know, yes, this is a new seat and a seat back, but look at the old school like iron you know, structure. I was really enchanted by the whole building. So this is what it looked like from where we were sitting originally. And again, you can see the outfield and all these businesses with the extra seating on top of their restaurants and bars. Just absolutely awesome. And then here's the other view looking down at the field. So that was really, really cool. And after a couple innings, we decided that, hey, we're going to go down a little bit further down. And so we did. And so this is after a few innings. And then after that, we decided to go a little bit lower again, and you can see as it gets later, it gets a little bit more full too. This is probably like the 7th inning or so, and then we ended up getting a little bit lower, probably somewhere around here, about 20 rows from the field, which was really, really cool. So this is me. I kind of snuck down and got a quick photo right on the wall, and the Cubs dugout is just right over here, so really amazing for $8 what you can get away with. Okay, so now this next thing is a video. And I'll just say this. There's nothing more American than baseball. There's nothing more baseball than a stadium like Yankee Stadium in New York or Wrigley Field in Chicago. And one of the greatest traditions at a baseball game is the 7th inning stretch, where everyone sings "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So to be at Wrigley Field at a real live Major League Baseball game and doing the 7th inning stretch was absolutely the coolest thing. So I'm going to fire up the video here. And you'll see 7th inning stretch at Wrigley Field. And you'll also hear my terrible singing. And here we go. That was fun. That was so much fun. We had such a good time. And the staff there at Wrigley Field, they also know how to have some fun. I don't know if this guy was wild about the fact that I was videotaping him doing the YMCA, but he was definitely in it, and that was a lot of fun. Here we go.
Yeah! Woo! That's awesome!
He was a good sport. He's having a lot of fun. So, end of the game. This is outside Wrigley Field. The Cincinnati Reds beat the Cubs 3-1, but nonetheless, it was just a fantastic evening. I will never forget my experience at Wrigley Field. Just a ton of fun. So the end of the night came for some of those in our group, but me and the guy from Australia, we wanted to keep the night going, and so we headed out. Now, a really famous part of Chicago is blues, right? It's kind of, I don't know if it's the birthplace of blues, but it's definitely a big thing in Chicago. And one of the most popular clubs in Chicago is this Buddy Guy's Legends. And so I'll just fire this up here. This is what the outside looked like. And that's Buddy Guy's there. And I guess they've had a lot of famous acts kind of roll through there. This is a video from inside Buddy Guy's. And I'll make that a little bit bigger for you. There's this couple there, and they were all dressed up and dancing, and they totally just put a cherry on top of the whole experience. Cool music, cool venue. This couple dancing, it really tied it all together. Check it out. Here we go. That was definitely a lot of fun. And here's like a little bit more of the band that you might find to be pretty cool. Totally classic blues. Check this out. Very cool. Just so much fun. So much fun. So happy we went. And end of the night, there's just a random picture. This is a sub shop, free smells. I don't know, it's random, but I thought I'd get a picture. Then the next day, it was back to nose to the grindstone for me. I had more work to do to get things done. And then after that, it's time to head out again at night. I guess all my pictures here are nightlife. You know what's most important to me. So I get to go to Second City. If you're not familiar with Second City is the group that launched the careers of people like John Candy, Tina Fey, and it's this huge feeder to Saturday Night Live. So a lot of the Saturday Night Live celebrities that we now know as household names, they started at Second City. And Second City used to actually film in Edmonton, my home city. Then it moved to Toronto, and I'm not sure what the deal is now, but this is the Second City location in Chicago. And the show that we went to see was called One Nation Under 1%. These are all the different actors. So we'll see if any of these names are big names in, say, 5 years from now. Ryan Archibald, Brooke Bright, something, Ross Bryant, Hans Holson, Nate Sherman, Claudia Michelle Wallace. You know, let's watch Saturday Night Live in a few years from now and see if these are the people that are now on SNL. We'll see. Now, the show was actually, I mean, it was amazing. It was hilarious. I had such a good time watching it. And one surprising thing was there was a couple moments in the show. It's kind of like it's a political. This particular show is a political show, and they were talking a lot about like the election that's coming up in the United States, and they're actually kind of lamenting the fact that the innocence around politics and everything was gone, and it's the 1% that actually control the vast majority of politics now, and all the rest. And so it was, there was a couple really somber moments where it was like dead silent, and you could hear a pin drop. But for the most part, and that was, I thought that was really quite powerful. And for the most part, it was a comedy show, though, and it was absolutely hilarious. There's points when I felt like I was watching Saturday Night Live, which was crazy. And actually, a lot of points where I thought it was actually better. And so I was talking to this Aussie guy about the show, and he said, well, yeah, obviously it's better because they can swear. It's not on TV. They're not limited to censorship. They can just swear and make off-color jokes. And so I thought, oh, that's a really good point. So great experience, super happy. I went, very, very cool. And that's the outside of Second City there. So back to the grindstone for me that night after I got back from Second City. I worked till like 5 in the morning because now it's like Thursday in the wee hours of the morning. And Thursday night I had to head out to the suburbs. So I had to get my work done for Perry's event. And I also knew that I only had about like one afternoon, one evening left to actually go out and see Chicago. So if you've noticed, we've done a lot of nightlife type stuff, but I haven't gone to see any of the public art. I haven't gone to see any of the architecture. Time was running thin. So I got out of bed on the Thursday and I headed out. This is the first piece of public art that I went to find. It's by Picasso, legitimately by Picasso. Now, something like 1% of the Chicago public infrastructure budget is dedicated to public art or something like that. So they just have this public art everywhere. It's crazy. It's just almost every fifth corner you go around, there's something like this. This is the backside of the Picasso art. And then, like I said, it's just everywhere. So that was really interesting to see. Very, very different from my city where we've got very, very little public art. And very, it ranges in style from like impressionistic type stuff. I don't know much about art, so please forgive me. But, this more kind of impressionistic type style to like more whatever this is, but it's, vastly different style. This particular piece was in Millennium Park. And Millennium Park is also the home of a really famous piece of art in Chicago known as Cloudgate. And that's what this big item is here, this kind of like big bean or mercury drop or whatever you want to call it. So I got closer and you can see, holy smokes, it's really big. There's actually people literally like easily standing underneath it here. And it's also so shiny and clean. You can see the skyline of the city in the reflection of Cloudgate. Just amazing. There's a picture of me in front of it. I thought it was just a super, super cool little monument, or big monument. And or I guess it's not a monument, but a piece of art. And how clean it was, and you can't see any seams. Like when they built it, normally you'd be able to see creases or lines between beams and everything, but here it was like seamless. This is a picture of me taking a picture of myself in the reflection of Cloudgate. This is a scratch here, but aside from that, you can see it's just like a perfect reflection. So just an amazing piece of interactive art. I thought it was really cool how people weren't only just looking at it, but they're kind of like interacting with it, taking pictures and being goofy and all the rest. That was really cool. So let's talk a little bit more of the architecture. Oh my goodness, everywhere you go in Chicago, there's some amazing building to look at. This is one of the most famous of all. It's called the Chicago Tribune Building. And again, don't you feel like you're in Spider-Man, or don't you feel like you're in Batman or something like that? Like almost this, I don't know if it's Gothic or Beaux-Arts or some kind of style of architecture. The Chicago Tribune is the biggest newspaper in Chicago from what I understand. And just unbelievable. And that's just like a day-to-day building. Like I can't believe people go to work in that, and it's still like a functioning building. It looks like some kind of castle or something. But yeah, here's the Chicago Tribune Building again. And this is a little bit of a source of controversy. When the owners of the Chicago Tribune Building were having it built, they sent their staff out to different corners of the earth to go to other famous monuments, and they actually... there's a lot of controversy over whether they had permission or whether they just stole, like literally chunks of buildings from around the world. So what I mean is like this square right here is literally a chunk of the Taj Mahal, which they stole from the Taj Mahal, and then they built it into the side of the Chicago Tribune Building. This right here is like a chunk of Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, which they like stole or took or something and then brought it back to America and built it right into the Chicago Tribune Building. So just wild. Like this building is something else. So then I walked inside. Talk about the classic entrance to a news organization. A big map of North America and big tall ceilings. Like again, I just felt like I was in a movie. It was so, so cool. On the walls, they had these quotes. And I took a picture of this one because it's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" by Patrick Henry. And Patrick Henry, if you've read Atlas Shrugged, is the name of the university that the most powerful, influential characters come from. I won't ruin the book Atlas Shrugged for you by saying whose names, but Patrick Henry University. And so I thought, what a clever piece of work by Ayn Rand to include that into Atlas Shrugged. Now maybe there's more to Patrick Henry, and maybe I'm just not up on my history or whatnot, but that's what caught my eye. This is another really famous building. It's called the Wrigley Building, and I believe it's either the Wrigley Building or the Chicago Tribune Building. Actually, I think it's the Tribune Building, that the owners ran a contest around the world, and they said, whoever designs the most beautiful building in the world, we will award you a $100,000 prize. Now, if you keep in mind that back in I don't know if it was the 1920s when this was built, but $100,000 is a huge sum of money. So that's part of why we get these grand, just amazing buildings. Now this Wrigley Building, in here, you can see it's actually two separate buildings. They actually built like a walkway after the fact between the 20th floors. I guess they just got tired of going all the way down and all the way up. So that's kind of a quirky, interesting little piece of that building. So then I decided I was going to take a boat tour. So boat just like this. I didn't go on this particular boat, but a boat just like it to do some sightseeing. This goes out to Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan eventually connects to like the St. Lawrence Seaway, and the St. Lawrence Seaway eventually connects to the Atlantic Ocean. So they could actually ship goods all the way into Chicago. And obviously, in the earliest days, before there was an extensive network of roads in the U.S., bringing things in by boat was very, very important. So into Chicago, this is the main arterial canal into Chicago from Lake Michigan. But then after that, it breaks off into three other channels. And so that's what our boat tour covered, was this main channel and then into the three other channels, and that was our boat tour. So check out some of this architecture. This is the Trump building. Donald Trump, the famous American real estate developer and celebrity personality, he built this here in Chicago, and it's one of the newest buildings, and it's quite imposing. Very big, very shiny, very impressive. Next up, this is another building, and just next to it, and I don't even know what style this is, some modern something. But I was also intrigued by this idea that there's, condos or apartments on the top floors, but the bottom floors, this is a car park or a parkade. And so the cars come up the middle, and then they park in this circular fashion all around the perimeter. Now, I guess there's been 2 instances where cars have actually come off the edge and have fallen into the canal, which is where I'm taking this picture from. And so that would be quite dramatic to see. However, they were both planned. They were both part of stunts that were done for movies. But I wonder what movies that's in. I'm not sure. It'd be kind of cool to see, though. Then right next to that is this kind of building. So I guess this is classic Art Deco style from what I understand. And this building is just massive. If you keep in mind this is the size of a door, just down here where my mouse is, you can see that this is such a, not like crazy tall, but just so wide. It's this huge block. And this is the same building. This building, I don't know what it's called, but it actually used to have its own zip code. And it's like 9 city blocks or something. I don't know, it's just this huge building. Very imposing. Very imposing. So you can see if we kind of quickly go through all the different kinds of architecture here, Chicago, and this is all like 6 buildings next to each other right on the canal, right? The Chicago Tribune building, the Wrigley building, the Trump Tower, whatever this thing is, whatever this building is, just amazing. It's just so packed. If you go, you'll walk around with your jaw just open. Because they've got all these canals, they also still have these bridges that raise, and that was kind of cool to see. You don't see that every day, especially not in my city where it's the prairies. So that was kind of cool. This is our tour guide just kind of taking us through some more styles of buildings. Now this right here is Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower, which at one point was the world's tallest freestanding structure, and there'll be some more close-up photos of that. So again, this is another completely different style of architecture. I guess the architect wanted to mix all different kinds of people into these buildings, so these smaller units are more kind of like entry-level housing, whereas these are like $1 million condos or something like that. So, and look at the curvature of everything, very fascinating. Not something that you would expect to see next to that Trump Tower, but here it is, not too far away. So this is, I think, a really amazing shot of Willis Tower, which is the former Sears building. What you see right here, this is your typical skyscraper in Edmonton, which is my city, so about 30 stories tall or whatnot. And then look at where that comes into Willis Tower. It's like almost 3 times the height. Absolutely mind-boggling. Then you add the little pointy things on the top, and it's just a massive structure. Now, what's even more amazing is it's since been surpassed by the Burj, whatever that building's called, in Dubai, and that's actually double the size of the Sears Tower. So I cannot even fathom how tall that would be, because the Sears Tower or the Willis Tower here on its own is quite amazing. Quite amazing for its height. There it is again, against another skyscraper. There's me, just sitting on the boat. And I have to say, I really just had an amazing opportunity. This is the Trump Tower again. I'm just so happy because I had the opportunity on a Thursday afternoon to be in this amazing city, just relaxing and enjoying this beautiful scenery. I work pretty hard running my marketing company, and so to have just half an hour of peace and quiet to just sit and enjoy this amazing city was a beautiful experience. And really the whole afternoon of walking around was, it felt like an amazing, how shall I say, a reward for all the hard work I've done to kind of get to this point. So certainly you'll see in the upcoming slides when we're at the conference and stuff that things definitely pick up the pace again, but this was a really beautiful, kind of serene, peaceful moment. So I got off the boat, and now I was on what's called the Magnificent Mile. So I was now walking again. And the Magnificent Mile is a strip of Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and it's all the highest-end shopping and buildings. Now, the first statue I saw here, this is actually John Hancock, I think. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. I thought that was just an expression, like when you're signing a check or a contract, oh, put your John Hancock here. But it's actually a guy. So, surprise to me, maybe I'm an ignorant Canadian or something, but that is John Hancock from what I understand. So I got going along, and lo and behold, Michael Jordan's Steakhouse. I thought that was really nifty. As far as sports goes, Michael Jordan is an absolute icon with all this, the 6 consecutive championships that the Bulls won, the Chicago Bulls won in the NBA in the 90s. So cool to see that he had a steakhouse there. I took this picture for 2 reasons. One, to send to a particular friend of mine who loves high heels, and so we've got a high heel made up of high heels. Another reason, and I kind of caught this after the fact, what an amazing little piece of marketing. Don't Go Home, the Chelsea 20-hour pump. So these are shoes that are built for comfort, I gather. And I know that oftentimes women can have really sore feet at the end of a night of being on their feet on high heels. And, you know, they could have called this anything. A lot of high heels have names like of the designer or something like that. But instead, they've called it the Don't Go Home Chelsea 20-hour pump. And so here it's like, wow, I can wear these things for 20 hours, and I also don't have to ruin a really fun night on the town or a really beautiful evening, you know, at a restaurant or dancing or something by going home. So they not only address the feature, which is it's a comfortable shoe, they've done the feature as far as specificity, right? So specifically, you'll get 20 hours. That is the feature. And then the benefit is you don't have to go home. I thought this was so intelligent. And it's not garish, it's classy, it still looks good. And very connected to the psychology of purchasing. I thought that was awesome. I went to Saks Fifth Avenue, and I went inside just to broaden my education when it comes to being able to market to affluent and wealthy people. So I'm currently working on a luxury condo project, and as we create the marketing for it, I wanted to be really connected to, you know, what does a person who's really affluent, what do they value? And what I learned in particular was the level of service inside Saks was just amazing. Like, there was a specialist in every single department. There's a Gucci section of purses, and there was like a person, you know, a rep that was standing there ready to answer your questions about anything with the bags. Then you keep going, and there's like a Dolce & Gabbana area of clothes, and there's like a rep there, a specialist there. So the amount of service was just amazing. Very, very interesting. Again, another sign for Saks Fifth Avenue. Neiman Marcus, Tiffany & Co. Just amazing, all these stores. I walked around a lot of them to get a sense of that like luxury buying experience. This building had to be my favorite building. This is called the John Hancock Building. So it's not, you know, the statue of John Hancock was at a different point. So this is the John Hancock Building. And I think this is called Brutalist. I thought this was just the most stunning building. All of these beams that you see here are actually part of the engineering. So if it weren't for these beams, this building would not stand. You know, it's raw, it's industrial, it's gritty, and yet it's elegant and beautiful and awe-inspiring all at the same time. Really tough call to pick a favorite building in all of Chicago, but I would have to say this one took my breath away the most. Beautiful building. Then this is much more quaint and much more kind of cute and charming is the Hershey's building. Now, I don't know if this is the original Hershey's store or whatever, but as you can see, this is the original Hershey's logo, so I have to think that this was the original Hershey's building or one of them. So lots of chocolate there. I went in there as well. This is a clothing store. I don't even remember what it was called, but every single one of these items here, this is actually an old hand sewing machine. And that's the front entrance to the store is like, whatever, 150 sewing machines. And I'm just thinking, where did they get those from? Did they have to go on eBay and buy like, you know, did they have to win 150 like antique auctions or something? So this is an amazing store. I really thought it was just mind-blowing, the work that they put into the interior experience of the store. Then after that, I got off the Magnificent Mile and I went to the Navy Pier. My tour guide on the boat cruise, she described the Navy Pier as kind of a tourist trap. Like, it's where families go to go get Ben & Jerry's ice cream and go hang out for the day. And I guess it used to be literally a pier, so you can see here that, you know, boats can still dock there and such. But the end of the pier, they actually had a landing strip, and it's where a lot of U.S. Pilots would learn how to fly. And the consequence of that is when you've got rookie pilots that are all landing, sometimes they would overshoot it and crash in the water. So to this day, in the water surrounding Navy Pier, there's something like 80 or 100 airplanes all sunk down on the bed of the lake. So I guess it's a really popular scuba diving expedition is to go to Navy Pier and jump off and go check out the wreckages. So that's Navy Pier, and I'll show you a few more photos of Navy Pier here. There's some yachts there, very beautiful. Lots of people dressed up and enjoying like an evening function. It's right off the edge of the Chicago skyline, so really some beautiful vistas. And I took this picture. This is the Navy Pier Ferris wheel. So this is a permanent Ferris wheel that's there. It takes 7 minutes to go all the way around, and from these top cars on the Ferris wheel, you can just imagine the view you would get of the city. It would just be absolutely spectacular. I didn't go on the Ferris wheel. I was running out of time, but it certainly looked like an amazing view and experience. If I go back to Chicago, I'll definitely go on the Navy Pier Ferris wheel. So this is just more of Navy Pier. And after that, it was time to walk back and check out a few more pieces of public art before getting on the subway and heading out to the suburbs. So it's just another office building here. It might be a condo for all I know. More public art. You can see it's just beautiful, beautiful public art, and it's all over the place. It's just amazing. Okay, this guy here. If I had to choose to give my money to any kind of street person, this is definitely the guy that I'm giving my money to. He was entertaining, and he was also, he was good. He was good at the drums. So here, check this out. Got the stick spinning going. Super fun. Totally I've never seen that before. Totally awesome. Next up was, okay, this is also a really well-known piece of art in Chicago. This is a person standing in front of, it's actually a video screen. And so this is a video recording of a woman, and you see her blink, and you see her lick her lips, and she kind of, you know, you can see her nostrils as she's breathing, and it's a video screen just outside. And then there's this little pool, or I guess it's a fairly long, skinny pool right here. And facing her is a second woman right here. And it's the same thing. It's a video screen, so you can see her blinking and breathing and licking her lips, and basically just what you or I or any human being would do if we were standing doing nothing. Now here's the kind of freaky part is, I'm not sure how frequent it is, probably every 5 minutes or so. This is what happens. So I'll just fire this up again in the video. The mouth actually opens, and she spits out water. Then after a bit, the water goes down. Whoops. And she smiles, and that's it. That's the video. So, you know, it's just kind of like this totally wild piece of public art that you just would not expect. So a couple final things here before I headed to the suburbs. The Art Institute of Chicago, I didn't have time to go in, but very, very interesting. If I go back, I'm definitely going to go check out all the museums. They have amazing museums and aquariums and everything in Chicago, and unfortunately I didn't have time to go into any of them, which is a bit of a tragedy, but lots to look forward to for the next time I go to Chicago. This is something kind of quirky I came across as I was walking along. It was called the Touch and Go Chess Party, and so basically it's just a bunch of chess games that are set up on the sidewalk, and anybody can just walk up and move a piece a few spots and then walk away, or you can stick around and play a few moves or play a whole game. So I thought that was really, really kind of interesting. And this is kind of the last landmark that I checked out. It's called Buckingham Fountain. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then I walked to the other side and checked out what it looked like against the city skyline. So breathtaking fountain, just absolutely beautiful. So that's the end of kind of the first part of my trip. I'm going to wrap this up here, and then if you're interested to go into part 2 to see my experience of the Perry Marshall Conference, make sure to check out video part 2.